Budvijanata.
Atmeva Budvijanata.
Tatra ko moha kashoka.
Tatra ko moha kasuka.
Ekatva manupashyata.
Ekatvam anupashyata.
Your turn.
Okay. Yasmin sarvani bhutani.
Yasmin savani bhutani.
Atmeva budvijanata.
Atmaiva budvijanata.
Tatra ko moha kasuka.
Tatra ko moha kashoka.
Ekatvam anupashyata.
Ekatva manupashyata. Perfect. That was well done.
Yeah, I mean, not
You just
perfect.
see practice makes perfect. Practice. That's the thing. Keep practicing everything.
Yeah.
Just like material things, we become very good at them just by doing it repeatedly.
Yeah.
Same with spiritual life too. If we just practice chanting or practice reading verses, learning verses, then all these things become easier and a better quality as time passes. So yeah, we should just keep practicing these things. But this will give us so much more returns. You know, ROI, right? ROI, return on investment.
Yeah.
So we're investing our time in these spiritual activities like japa and Shravanam, you know, hearing the Lord, Shabda Brahma. But this will give us so much better returns on the time and effort we're taking on this, that we can get the moksha, the mukti, liberated from all the suffering of the material world. No, we can become COVID free forever. And all free of all diseases, free of old age, free of death, and free of repeated birth. I just saw something today that it was actually an Indian family. The man was very upset because his wife, she was expected to give birth to a child. So they had purchased all kind of paraphernalia for the new child, first child, Indian couple, and then the mother went into some difficulty breathing and things. So he called the ambulance, and in the ambulance they decided to take out the child by cesarean, even in the ambulance. But she had some blood clot or something, apparently a blood clot. So, and she died. And then 4 days later, the child they'd taken out by cesarean, the child also died. So then the husband is very disturbed, obviously. Not his wife died, his child died. So birth also can be I used to think, oh, I can understand that old age is miserable, disease is miserable, death is miserable, but birth miserable. I couldn't really understand that birth is miserable, but it's a fact, you know, that we see even associated with birth. There's so many miseries, not only for the child, and the child is packed up inside the mother's womb for 9 months, and it's a very tight space as the child's developing. And it's said if the mother eats any very strong foods like onions and garlic, or too much spicy masala, you know, too much salt, too much lemon, you know, too much chili, then it hurts the tender body of the child. Is very painful. And that description is there in the third canto Srimad Bhagavatam. It gives a very detailed description of the time that the living entity is inside the womb, and it's a very miserable condition. And the spine is bent like a bow. It's because you can't obviously stand up in there, so you're all curled around. And it said if an adult was in that condition, we would immediately die within a second. But because the consciousness is very low inside the womb, the consciousness is very less. So the child can tolerate that painful condition. But with an adult's consciousness, it would just be too excruciating like that. But so not only for the child, but also we see for the mother, it's a very painful situation. the process of pregnancy and then giving birth and everything like that. And nowadays, a lot of the women, they just can't handle it at all. So they have to cut the woman open and pull out the child. They used to obviously have natural births more, and the mother would just tolerate a bit of pain and push it out. But now the women are just, I don't know what it is. They just can't handle it anymore. And they cut out the children these days. And but that also leads to problems, cutting out the child and everything like that. And anyway, there's so many things, so many difficulties there. But just by practicing these activities, hearing Isopanisad, Bhagavad Gita, discussing these things, chanting japa, doing some archan, some puja, worship to the Lord, Archavigraha, and doing some menial service like that can free us from all of these difficult conditions. Whereas, we rent out houses and do some business and make money in different ways. But that's all some temporary benefit, and it still locks us into another birth and another old age, another disease, another death. So it's just perpetuating our problems. So the only thing really worth doing is doing these kind of activities. I mean, of course, we still have to make some money, and to maintain the body, that has to be done. But that's not giving us a permanent benefit. Our idea, we want to maintain the body just enough to keep it alive, so that we can do the real things, the real substance, called the vastu. So the real vastu, the real substance of our life, is not the money and the house and the car and the mobile and the clothes and all this kind of job and everything. But the real substance is we're developing our relationship with God, with Bhagavan. So we're understanding the Atma and Bhagavan and our relationship, which is bhakti. So this is the real substance of our life, and that's going to lead us to the ultimate pleasure, ananda, the ultimate bliss.
Yeah,
So
I think you're we basically are overdoing to maintain our body. I mean, we are going beyond what we need necessary, So that's true. We are wasting time on other stuff. And the only thing we need to is to maintain the body. Just maintain the body, not, do all the things nice, trying to make things so more comfortable. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that's not the purpose. We are too much involved with the body.
Yeah. And even now we see what's the main thing everyone talks about is talking about COVID. Day and night, COVID, it's the mantra, the new mantra, virus, COVID, virus, so, but that's not doing us any good. It's just more bodily focus, and it's not helping us at all. And no matter what we do to try to solve the problem, it's just more and more problems are coming. It's just so complicated. Now there's problems, from the vaccines that's creating other problems. Some people are getting serious problems or even death from the vaccine. So, it's like there's no way out. The more we absorb our business,
It's like, we already talked about this, that we are trying to solve material problem with material. It's not going to end. It's not going to stop, because we are going the wrong platform. I mean, that's I think is there. So we are trying to solve all the material problem with material problem. We solve one, but we create few others.
Yeah.
In case of medicine as well, you treat something with this, but there are side effects for that. So I mean, the whole approach is what I think is that, or what I think the Vedas says, that we are basically solving incorrectly problems. It's the spiritual platform where we should be working, I guess.
And the real problem is because we're so absorbed in these material things like diseases like COVID, for example, we forget our real mission in life. We completely go off track. We forget our real purpose. Our real purpose is to get a permanent solution to disease, a permanent solution to old age and disease, death, which is this process of bhakti yoga, developing our love for God. Otherwise, these temporary solution, try to get rid of COVID, but then there'll be something else. Then there'll be COVID number 2 and COVID number 3 and COVID number 4. I mean, you might get rid of COVID 1, but then COVID 2 will come, and You get rid of COVID-2, number 3 will come. So as long as we're in the material world, there's always going to be disease. There's always going to be old age. There's always going to be death. You can't remove disease, old age, and death and then repeat and birth again from the material existence. You can't do that. That's the way the material is set up. The real thing to do is to deliver the soul from the material world, to somehow get the soul out of the material world into the spiritual world, into Vaikuntha. That's the real solution. Trying to stop the problems in the material world is impossible, because that's the way it's set up for that. You're never going to remove the dukkha, the unhappiness, from the material world. You can't stop disease, You can't stop old age. You can't stop death. The real thing is to liberate the soul from the material world, and that's the Vedic approach. Don't try to make the world a better place, a more comfortable place, but better try to get out of the material world. But if you get so busy in trying to make the material world a more better place, comfortable place, then we forget our real mission, our real purpose, which is to get out of the material world. That's very important. Okay, let's get into it. So do you want to read the translation again?
Yep. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of the things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him?
Okay, so let's continue the purport. So we're starting off from the spiritual entities are meant for enjoyment.
These spiritual entities are meant for enjoyment. As stated in Vedanta Sutra, Anandamayo Abhyasat. By nature and constitution, every living being, including the Supreme Lord and each of his parts and parcels, is meant for eternal enjoyment. The living beings who are encased in material tabernacle are constantly seeking enjoyment, but they are seeking it on the wrong platform. Apart from material platform is the spiritual platform, where the Supreme Being enjoys himself with his innumerable associates. On that platform, there is no trace of material qualities, and therefore that platform is called Nirguna. On Nirguna platform, there is never a clash over the object of enjoyment. Here, in the material world, there is always a clash between different individual beings, because here the proper center of enjoyment is missed. The real center of enjoyment is the Supreme Lord, who is the center of the sublime and spiritual rasa dance. We are all meant to join him and enjoy life with one transcendental interest and without any clash. That is the highest platform of spiritual interest. And as soon as one realizes this perfect form of oneness, there can be no question of illusion or lamentation.
So we're not against enjoyment, but the point here, which is very well said by Prabhupada, is that the real enjoyment is in spiritual life with the Lord. And that's our real nature, is to enjoy, as we're part and parcels of God, because the nature of God is mentioned here from Vedanta Sutra as Anandamaya Vyasat. His nature is Ananda, Anandamaya. So that energy is there of enjoyment. And because we're part of him, also, therefore, we have the same nature. Because remember, that the part has the same qualities as the whole, but just to a smaller degree. So he is the supreme enjoyer, so we are a minute enjoyer. But the thing is that the real enjoyment is in our eternal loving relationship with him. The problem is when we try to enjoy in the material world separate from him. That's when we lose the enjoyment, and we get the opposite of that. So the material world is like a reflection of the spiritual world, but it's become very negative here, our experiences, when we've turned away from God and try to enjoy separately from the Lord. Then instead of, we're trying to enjoy, but we're getting the opposite result, where we end up suffering. So the solution is turn back towards the Lord, our loving relationship with him, and then we can enjoy again. So it's when it says many times in the scriptures that we want to renounce sense gratification, to give up sense gratification, which means, like material enjoyment. Yeah, we do say give up material enjoyment, but it's not that we're against enjoyment, but just the enjoyment of the material world is counterproductive. It's taking us further away from our real happiness. The more we try to enjoy just through the senses, the material senses, bodily senses, that just leads. So therefore the scriptures say give up, material sense gratification, bodily enjoyment, and try to get the spiritual sense gratification, the spiritual enjoyment, which is in our loving relationship with the Lord. And Prabhupada gives an example of some very enjoyable pastime with the Lord, which is the Rasa Leela, which is very famous. A lot of Indians know about the Rasa Leela, when Krishna engages in a very special dance. So that's like the climax of enjoyment that one can have with Krishna. But if we try to imitate that in the material world, like if a man just gets together with a lot of women and does some dancing and everything like that, then and which leads to sex and so forth, but that's just going to lead to suffering. But the real enjoyment is like to dance with Krishna, to join Krishna's dancing party. And that's the positive spiritual enjoyment. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's natural. That's our real life. And that's why people are attracted to singing and dancing in the material world. They go to discos and parties and so many things, concerts. They're attracted to singing and dancing. Why is that? Because we come from that. In the spiritual world, we were singing with Krishna and we were dancing with Krishna, and we had pure love for Krishna. But in the material world, we're trying to imitate Krishna. We're trying to imitate God. So we want to get together a bunch of girls and sing and dance with them here. But there's no real love. It's just a perversion of love, which is lust. There's no pure loving relationship here. But the real love is in the spiritual world with Krishna, and so many loving pastimes there. So this is a point here. Would you like to say anything about that?
Yeah. I think I like the point where you say that the music and dance in the material world is basically it's the natural coming from God, but we have actually changed it to we are enjoying it materially. So that makes sense. I mean, that's a very good point.
Yeah. And interesting, Prabhupada's making the point a clash of interest here. That in the material there's a clash of interest, because we're all trying to be the enjoyer. So I'm trying to enjoy, you're trying to enjoy, Tom, Dick, and Harry, everyone's trying to enjoy, the men, the woman, everyone, the black, the white. And we're competing with the same objects for enjoyment. Like, we're two men are attracted to the same woman, so they fight over the woman, or two people are attracted to getting a particular amount of money or wealth, so they fight and compete over the wealth, or some position in the office. You might have encountered that you've got like rivalry and competition over the position of some management position, administration position, CEO, or whatever it be. People are fighting over the position and power and everything like that. So there's a lot of conflicting interests there. We're all chasing after, some sense objects. But in the spiritual world, there's no clash of interest, because there's only one supreme enjoyer, Krishna, and everyone is serving that supreme enjoyer. So if you've got 100 servants in the room, there's going to be peace and harmony. But if you get 100 masters in the room, then there's going to be a lot of fighting and everything like that. Just like dogs, if you put 100 dogs together, there's going to be a big fight. because every dog is thinking, this is my place, and what are you doing here? Get out. Who said you could come here? This is mine, and it's all meant for my enjoyment, like that. So it's like a dog mentality where we think this is mine. Like the very first verse of Isopanisad was that everything belongs to God, nothing belongs to anyone else. So when we have that mentality, there's no conflict. But as soon as we think, oh, this is everyone thinks this is mine. This is for me to enjoy. This country is mine. All the wealth here is mine. All the women are mine. Everything like that. Then immediately we have, war and conflict and fighting and so many things like that. So that's where the conflict is coming from, this wrong mentality that we all think we're the masters, the enjoyers, the controllers, the proprietors, everything like that. Basically, we're trying to take God's position. And when you have, 100 gods, 1,000 gods, or like 6 billion, now we have 6 billion people, it's like 6 billion gods, then you get a big mess, But if you have one God and everyone else is a servant, then it's no problem. And although we're saying there's one enjoyer, one master, and everyone else is a servant, but we still enjoy. But how we get the enjoyment is through serving the master. When the master is pleased, then the servant becomes pleased. So you could say we're secondary enjoyers. There's one primary enjoyer, and then all the rest unlimited secondary enjoyers. Once Krishna enjoys, then everyone else enjoys. Like, you try to give enjoyment to the stomach, put the food in the stomach. When the stomach enjoys the food, then the food will be enjoyed by all the fingers and the toes and the arms and legs and the head. So it means the stomach is the central point of the body. You put the food there, and then that gets distributed everywhere. Or like the root of the tree, you give the water to the root of the tree, and then that will get distributed to all the leaves, hundreds of thousands of leaves and fruits and flowers and so forth, like that will go everywhere. So the same, everyone gives enjoyment to God, and then that gets distributed, goes out to everywhere. So when God enjoys, then everyone enjoys. But if we ignore God, then nobody enjoys. Does that make sense?
Yep, definitely, yeah.
And Prabhupada's attributing to that because there's no real oneness in society, because people have become godless and there's so much clash, then therefore there's so much illusion and lamentation. This is where that's coming from. But if we're all centered around serving the one supreme being, then this illusion and lamentation will go away, which obviously we want that. No one wants to be in shoka, in lamentation. So this is the solution for all of our lamentations, all of our anxiety, all of our fears, is to become centered around giving pleasure to God. But as long as we ignore that giving pleasure to God, then and trying to enjoy ourselves, then there's going to be so much clash and so much illusion, so much lamentation. And that's how Prabhupada starts off the next paragraph. A godless civilization arises from illusion. So therefore all these things are coming in. That's the ultimate problem, because we've turned away from God, and therefore all these problems come from there. If you just deal with that one thing. So it's not complicated. Spiritual life's very easy. All you have to do is turn back towards God, And that's why Prabhupada said, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So it's gone. That you just have to become God conscious, and who is God? Krishna. So Krishna conscious, if we just reawaken our God consciousness, turn back towards God, then all these other problems will be solved. So you don't have to address, the hundreds of millions of problems, but you just address this one problem, that we're in illusion, that we've forgotten God. We've forgotten God, and we're thinking we're God, and that's the illusion. And because of that, we're trying to usurp God's position. And it's interesting, Prabhupada uses a very old word in this paragraph, which is tabernacle. Do you know the word tabernacle? It's not
Yeah, I
used very
think
much
so.
these.
Yeah, it's similar to a tent or something. Yeah, tabernacle covering or something. Tabernacle. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a covering, but it's like a kind of imprisonment or a kind of cage, like a kind of cage. Yeah, like covering, a kind of covering or cage. So yeah, we're an eternal soul, but we're covered by this material cage. Is this body is like a material covering, a material cage, which is covering the soul. So this is the cause of so many problems. So we want to remove this tabernacle, remove this covering, so that the free the soul. Just like a bird is in a cage, the cage is like a tabernacle for the bird. So, and the bird is not happy in the cage. The bird naturally is flying free. So the best thing to do is to let the bird out of the cage. So the same thing, when we let the soul out of the body, then it's free. Then it's completely free. Then no lamentation, no illusion, no anxiety, no fear, all these kind of things. All of the problems are coming because we're in this cage or this tabernacle of the material body. What is COVID affecting? It's only affecting the body. Does COVID affect the soul? Like does all the problems of birth affect the soul? No, none of these things. But where the problem is, due to illusion, we're falsely identifying ourselves with the body. You see, it's an interesting thing to be thinking about. When we have some disease, who is suffering? Is the soul suffering? Where is the suffering? If we get bitten by a snake, who's suffering? Is the soul suffering? Or if we lose our job, is the soul suffering? Or we get a divorce, is the soul suffering? Or whatever, if we have a heart attack, is the soul suffering? Where's the suffering?
It's in the body, I guess. Yeah.
But the body is just dead matter. The body is just dead matter. So, I mean, in one sense, the body is made of earth, water, fire, air, material elements. There's no suffering in that either. Like if you just, flush a pile of earth down the toilet, there's not going to scream out in pain or anything like that. So it's not the soul. The pain is not in the soul, and the pain is not in the body either, really. So where is it?
It's the illusion, actually. Is it because the subtle body is mind, right?
Yeah, subtle body. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, so it's in the mind.
Mind.
So the mind and the false ego team up together, and that's that false identification with the body, the false ego. We're falsely identifying with the body, and the mind has taken it on that I am this body. So if the hand gets cut or something like that, or someone punches you in the head or whatever, then that suffering is in the mind. So that's where all the emotions are. In the mind, that when we talk about shoka and moha and bhayam, fear, and all these kind of things, anxiety, this is all in the mind. All these things are in the mind, because due to false ego in the mind, we're identifying, the soul is identifying itself with the body, but actually we're not affected at all by any of these things. I mean, like this says in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the soul's not burnt by fire. The soul's not drowned by water. The soul's not dried out by wind. A soul cannot be cut by any weapons.
Yes.
So there's nothing affects the soul. So it's all in the mind. The body is being, manipulated in so many ways. Of course, the body can be cut by weapons, the body can be burnt, the body can be drowned, the body can be dried out. But the mind is identifying with the body. So, and therefore the soul is just helplessly tagging along, witnessing all of this, and we freak out. So that's the thing. So that's the Maya, that's the illusion, that we're falsely identifying ourselves with matter. But as soon as we cut off from this false identification, then all the suffering is over. And the suffering
But
is over.
if we don't, so why God has given us this body? Is it to teach us, to teach us? Um, because we are here because we thought we are becoming God. We want to control. We want to create things or something. So body has importance as well in learning, actually, isn't it? It's not totally bad, but
Well, the body is an instrument to fulfill our desires. So we have a desire to enjoy in a particular way. So therefore, there's so many different species of life, because someone wants to enjoy through eating, okay, get the body of a pig. Someone wants to enjoy through sex, okay, get the body of a monkey or something like that. Someone wants to enjoy by moving very fast, so get the body of like a leopard or a tiger or something. Or someone wants to fly, okay, get the body of a bird. Someone wants to swim, get the body of a fish. So according to different desires, we're given different bodies to fulfill our desires. So that's what it's for. It's an instrument. The body is an instrument to fulfill our different desires, to enjoy in different ways. So we want to enjoy in so many different ways. You enjoy in one way, but you have other desires too. So then you have to get given another body. That's why you get given another body. Why do you move from a reincarnation, transmigrate from one body to another? You move into another body because when you died, you still had more desires, unfulfilled desires. Oh, you're not happy that, my body isn't tall enough. I want a taller body. So next life you get a taller body. Or you're in a man's body, but you're attracted to women. So then, because you have a desire thinking about women, so next body you get is a woman's body. So it's because of our desires that we get transferred into from one body to another, to another, to another, like that. And therefore the yogi, they are stopping their material desires. And as soon as you stop the material desires, you don't want anything in the material world anymore, then you don't have to get another body. You get another body only because you have material desires. If you don't have any material desires, you don't get another material body. But then, of course, you can't stop desiring. So it's just a matter of you don't have material desires because you replace it with spiritual desires.
Yep.
I don't want to dance with the girlfriend anymore. I want to dance with Krishna. See, it says both the desires, but you make Krishna the central point of the desires. Now I want to cook something for myself to eat, but a spiritual desire is now I want to cook something for Krishna to eat. Like a lot of Indian women, they have Bal Gopal, Ladu Gopal. And they really love Ladu Gopal, Bal Gopal. And when they're cooking, but they're not cooking for themselves. They're cooking for Ladu Gopal. They're cooking for their Bal Gopal deity. You see? It seems the same process. They're both cooking, both people are cooking, but one person is cooking for their own tongue, their own belly, but the other person is cooking for Gopal's tongue, for Gopal's enjoyment.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing I was thinking is that I don't know whether I'm right or not. The body is there, the desires. You are here because of your desires.
Yeah.
But that is also a way of God trying to teach you, because when you go into this world, you have desires. Then you go through all the problems. Then you question it, why I'm suffering. Then you start asking questions. That's a kind of learning process. He's actually forcing you to learn.
Definitely. No, what you're saying is true, that's the way the material is set up. Simultaneously, it's giving you an opportunity to fulfill your desires, but at the same time, it's set up in such a way that you get frustrated and you realize it's not working out. And then eventually you become detached, and then you would eventually want to get out of the material world.
Then you look for things, Then you look for things, why I'm here, the purpose. Then you go and search for things. Then you become inquisitive, and then it comes the teachings. I mean, So it's a proper system where he has made. As the first one says, everything is complete. He's got everything there, and it's just guiding you, through giving you problems, making you, not just giving you. He can just put you in the spiritual world, but he's not, because he knows that probably if it gets easily, then you won't value it, because, and then you learn. I think, yes, it's quite amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, people have to make the decision themselves. You can't force it.
Yeah.
If they can't make people love God, and there's no point sending the soul back to the spiritual world if you don't love God, because
Yeah, that's right.
it's going to become a conflict of interest there. You can't have more than one person in the spiritual world that wants to be God. That's why we had to exit there. That's why we got ejected from the spiritual world, because there was a conflict of interest. If you want to be God, then you have to come to the material world. The material is the place for people that want to imitate God.
Yeah, then that's when
So,
you realize that you are not the God.
so, and he gives us that opportunity. Okay, you want to be me? Okay, go for it.
Right, yeah.
Go to the material world. But you can't do it there, because you just completely spoil the mood there. Krishna doesn't want to live in an environment where there's, that conflict there, where there's jealousy and envy and pride and all this kind of ego and everything like that. That just disturbs the enjoyment. And it's true, that our enjoyment gets spoiled by these things, isn't it? By envy and jealousy and lust and greed and anger, and so many things just completely spoil it. So, but that's the thing. If we get back to that, our original nature is to be a loving servant, then all these bad qualities will go. All this envy and lust and greed and anger and everything will disappear, and it'll just be filled with just a loving attitude of service, very humble attitude of service, and then everyone can live harmoniously.
And that's not short term. That's not
Yeah,
temporary. It's
that's
you're
right.
happy. I mean,
That's right.
permanently. I mean, long term.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's a difference. Yeah.
definitely. Okay, let's
All
continue.
right. A
A
godless
godless.
civilization arises from illusion, and the result of such a civilization is lamentation. A godless civilization, such as that sponsored by the modern politicians, is always full of anxieties because it may be crushed at any moment. That is the law of the nature. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, verse 7.14, no one but those who surrender at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord can surpass the stringent laws of nature. Thus, if we wish to get rid of all sorts of illusion and anxiety and create a unity out of all diverse interests, we must bring God into all our activities.
Mm. And that's exactly what's happening in the world at the moment. That where Prabhupada's saying, a godless civilization such as that sponsored by the modern politicians is always full of anxieties because it may be crushed at any moment. And we see the whole world civilization has been crushed by this COVID virus. Just by this tiny thing you can't even see, a little virus. It's just crushed the whole civilization, whole economies that were doing so well, suddenly, in one moment, suddenly they're just all crushed by this thing, locked down, everything is stopped. All the jobs have stopped, and the money flowing has stopped, and the traveling has stopped, and I mean, even like the national air carrier in New Zealand, Air New Zealand, was doing so well. It was so profitable. And then suddenly COVID happened and no one's traveling anymore. And the whole airline businesses completely collapsed, and they laid off so many workers, and they need to get so much monetary support from the government. And I read that the last 2 years they've had, something like $600 million debt, deficit or something like that. It's just completely collapsed it, So that's the thing that creates anxiety, that at any moment our sense gratification, our enjoyment can end. and material nature can just take it away just in a moment. There was a little tornado went through Auckland a week or so ago when there was a storm, and it just went through mainly one street in Auckland. It went through one street, and it just pretty much destroyed every house on that street, like 50 houses. It just smashed through 50 houses. So, I mean, you're thinking, life's good, everything's wonderful, I have a house and a job and everything. And then in 1 second, a tornado comes through your house and completely rips the roof off, the walls fall apart, everything. One man, actually, and he was an Indian man. He was doing some work, I think outside the house or something. And the tornado lifted him off the ground into the air, sucked him up into the air, and he died. He died. He got carried away so not only it pulled the houses to pieces, but it just lifted this guy off the ground and just threw him somewhere. I don't know where it threw him, but he was dead. So, and this is a cause of anxiety because no one knows what the future holds. It's really unknown what's going to happen in future. So everyone in the core of their heart is worried and fearful and anxiety about, we don't know what's going to happen in future. And this is a cause of great anxiety. And this is the nature of the material world, that it's all temporary. That even though we're happy now, we none of us are sure when it's going to come to an end. So, and then that's a cause of anxiety. And so therefore the solution is we should remove ourselves from this material existence and go to the spiritual world, because in the spiritual world, the happiness is forever. It never comes to an end. Therefore, there's no anxiety. Therefore, the spiritual world is called Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha. Kunta means anxiety. Kunta means anxiety. Vaikuntha means without anxiety. Without anxiety. This material world is Kuntha Loka, but the spiritual world is Vaikuntha Loka. So we need to find out the process to transfer ourselves from Kuntha Loka to Vaikuntha Loka, because it's impossible to try to find real happiness in this Kuntha Loka. So there's so many anxieties, we don't know what's coming around the corner, and that's always disturbing us in the back of our mind. That just that little thought in the back of your mind that my what I'm enjoying is going to come to an end. It's enough to spoil your happiness. You can't enjoy fully. I mean, like, how could you enjoy living in your house if you got a letter from your landlord saying, in 1 month's time, we're kicking you out of the house? So can you enjoy in the house? No, you can't, because in 1 month you're gonna get kicked out. So it's like that. We all, in the back of our mind, we all know we're going to get kicked out of this body. We're all going to get kicked out. So death is going to come. So because of that, anxiety is there, that fear is there. There's no real enjoyment in the material world. But of course, once we become Krishna conscious, then all this anxieties evaporate, because you're not the body. You're a spirit soul. The soul is eternal, that you have an eternal relationship with God, that you're actually looking forward to getting kicked out of the body. Because kicking out of the body, you're going to be transferred to Vaikuntha. So, well, that's ecstatic. That's like let's hold a festival. Let's have a party that, we're going back to the spiritual world. We're going back to our real home, So all that, from the moment we become fully Krishna conscious, like it's saying, surrendering to Krishna, then you're going to get free from like Prabhupada's saying, these stringent laws of material nature, that only by surrendering to Krishna you can get free from these stringent laws of material nature. That's what Prabhupada's saying here. So as long as we come to the point where, yes, from now on, I'm going to surrender to you, Krishna. I'm yours. You do with me what you like. I'm your servant. You're my master. I surrender. Then there's no more anxiety. Then you leave everything up to Krishna, and you know that he's going to take care of you. And then whatever happens when you die, that's in his hands. It's none of your business. he knows what's best, and you have no worries. You've got no worries. So from the point of when we surrender, and then we're convinced that we're the soul, we're not the body, and that we're eternal, and we have a loving relationship with Krishna, and then there's no more anxieties after that. So that's a great relief. That's a great relief. All that burden, like a big weight we've carried on our shoulders, so much anxiety, big responsibilities. It's like a big burden. It's called bharam. In Sanskrit, bharam means a great weight, a great burden. That, I have all this responsibility to look after my family and me and my job, and we got so many things that we've taken on as I'm accountable for this and that, and I'm responsible for this and that, my house and my car and my family and my job and my money, and I got to protect my wealth and everything like that, and it just creates so much stress and everything. But when we become Krishna conscious, then we hand all that over to Krishna. It's all yours now. It was already yours, but I was thinking an illusion that it was mine. Now I've realized the truth that nothing's mine. It's all yours. So it's also Krishna's problem. It's not my problem anymore. That's not my problem. So we just humbly doing some service, but without any anxiety, because it's Krishna's money, it's Krishna's house, it's Krishna's body, this body, Krishna's family, everything like that, Krishna's job, like that, Krishna's business. So we do the same things, but with no stress, with no problem. And if a tornado comes and rips the roof of the house, well, it's not my house.
It's all good. It's all good.
And if I get carried away, if it carries my body away and throws me down, we'll go back to Godhead. Just chant Hare Krishna while you're getting carried away.
That's a very good point, in the sense that anxiety is because we think we are responsible for everything, but you are not. We are not. Yeah. We have responsibility, but we are not responsible for everything. So that's where the problem is. We have created, for example, even in the society, they have created system like that where their anxiety, you're putting people in school. Some people don't like going to school. You're pushed into the same thing, kind of thing. That's just an example. And then, as you give example, family, I have to take care of my family, as if you always, but you're not 100% sure tomorrow you won't have a job or anything. So it's. I think it's as the second mantra said, you are not the controller. You can just do whatever. But that's a big weight. When you put yourself responsible, even though you are not 100% responsible for. You're not controller basically. So you are not responsible for everything.
Yeah. But we've taken up that mentality that we are the controller. That's the problem.
That's illusion.
Which is false. It's completely nonsense.
That's our ignorance, isn't it?
That's our ignorance. Yeah. So as soon as we get overcome by that illusion, then we suffer. But the thing is, that illusion comes from ignorance.
Yeah.
See, that idea that we're thinking I'm in control, I'm responsible. That's ignorance.
Yeah.
That's a lack of knowledge. So. Therefore, this kind of knowledge is so essential, because this is setting us free from illusion. That we're realizing that I've been living in an illusory way, thinking I'm in control and I'm responsible and everything like that, and I'm doing everything, and this is causing me to suffer. So this is essential knowledge. Unfortunately, they don't teach us in school, and we.
I think this is the real knowledge. That will make people more happy than that material knowledge they teach in the schools. But the thing is that education system has come out of illusion as well. Because they don't know the real knowledge. So, but that's a very good point. I think that should be. I would have preferred that knowledge rather than the bookish knowledge or the material knowledge.
Yeah.
That's the real knowledge. If you start teaching in a school, the world would be so much better place.
Yeah. And then the students wouldn't be jumping off skyscrapers, because that happens too. Even the students get anxiety, Oh, I didn't pass my exams and then I jump off a skyscraper. That's crazy. What kind of, even on the young people, we're putting so much burden. You have to pass, get A+. If you don't get it, forget about just passing. You have to get an A+. If you don't get A+, you're just useless. And you put that on some poor little kid's mind, that, you know, you have to be number one, otherwise just jump off the scraper.
And the other problem in the society is that they push everyone through the same hole. Like, you have to go through school. But according to, as you said, Bhagavad Gita or Vedant, you have categorization of people, right? Some people are good at physical things. They are not good at school. See, what you're doing, you're pushing everyone through the same hole, but they are not. They are different.
Yeah, that's right. Then not everyone's a Brahmana, but you're trying to treat everyone like you're a Brahmana, intellectual.
Exactly.
But, you know, and all the, you know, 90% of people are Sudras. So then what are you going to, you pushing them through a Brahmana hole, then it's not going to work. And they're going to jump off skyscrapers, you know, or have an overdose on some drug or something like that.
All you're doing something which you don't want to do because society is putting you through the pressure, you know, going through. Then you will be unhappy. You won't be happy because if somebody forces you to, you won't be happy. So I mean, that's what is happening there. The whole system is not right. It's because it's not based on the real knowledge. So that's why everything we are in a vicious cycle, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
we have solutions which are materialistic solutions, which are not permanent solution like spiritual. I mean, you have to go through spiritual side of it and see the whole picture, not just the material picture.
What to speak of understanding our spiritual nature as a soul, as a servant of Krishna. People are in illusion about understanding their psychophysical nature. You know, like whether they're a Sudra or a Vaisya or a Kshatriya, Brahmana or whatever like that. That they don't understand that. Forget about spiritual, even materially the knowledge is lacking so much. They don't even understand what their psychophysical nature is. And therefore, you know, they are, you know, lost and aimless, and they don't know what to do in their life. And if you ask any student what job do you want to do, they have no idea like that, and it's completely lost. So, and how are they going to advance spiritually if materially they're not even sorted out? You know, they're in so much stress, anxiety, everything, because they don't even have a proper job. They don't have income coming in. You know, they don't feel they're contributing to society or whatever like that. They're like useless. You know, how are they going to advance spiritually? Even materially is not sorted out. But the Vedas sorts all these things out. It's not just talking about, the soul and God and airy-fairy stuff. It's talking about, you know, how to get a satisfying job, you know, and how, so you're not going to be unemployed, you know, and it's going to be what you like to do and what you're good at doing and everything like that. And it just sorts all these things out. So you're going to get food on the table and a roof over your head and all these kind of things. It's all going to get sorted out when you know that you're a Sudra or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or whatever like that, you know, and you can start making progress, you know, and that you have, you know, your bodily needs are being met through that work. And then when your mind is peaceful, that you have everything your body needs, then you can start to think about who am I and why am I here, and you know what's going to happen when I die, and preparing for that.
Or the problems can also start make you, some of them may thinking why it's like this. I mean, if you start thinking like this, why I am unhappy and all those things, even if you are pushed into the wrong side of the education or say something, but that's where some, you know, people will start asking questions. So yeah, I mean, materially they might maybe sometime they might ask questions, but when you are in problem, when you're in trouble, when you're unhappy, then you are more likely to ask questions. So yeah, I mean, it can be work. So, and the other thing I like about this is that nobody can surpass the stringent law of nature. So usually what will happen if you push a Shudra to become an engineer, the law of nature will push him towards what his nature is. Ultimately, what will happen? He will spend unhappy time doing all the things, school, trying that, and then at the end of the day, the laws, stringent laws, as you said, nature's law. If you're a Sudra or if you're a Kshatriya, you will be pushed. You will go into that area. I think that's what I think it should be.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, so it's all God is trying to push us, a teacher, to ask questions and get into the right position. Yeah, right.
But unfortunately, with modern society, it's become so complicated. It may take us most of our life before we figure
Yeah,
out should we.
because it's based on
So much
ignorance,
of
as you said.
our precious time is wasted because we only have a short life. So see, Vedic culture gets it sorted out right away from the age of 5. Okay, you start your education, where whether you're a Sudra or a Kshatriya Vaishya like that, get it sorted out. Then you start on the ashrams. Ashram means your spiritual progress, brahmachari, then ashram, then grihastha ashram, vanapras, sannyas. So you're making spiritual progress also very early on in life. But now, people don't know whether they're Arthur or Martha. Even by the time they're 50, they're still trying to figure out who they are and what they're going to do. And then by then, it's too old to even do anything. Your body's falling apart. So it's just so complicated. Modern day society has become, and our time is wasted. Look. I mean, look how much people's time is wasted now due to this COVID virus. I mean, they're day and night just thinking about this, and they're not thinking about God or anything like that. Most people are just so fearful now. They're afraid of some virus, and they're always putting a mask on and everything, and afraid to see anyone, talk to anyone, and completely under the control of the government. I don't know if that's a very good idea. That we're completely under the control of the government. The government, you depend on the government to tell you whether you can move or not move, or whether you can go outside or not go outside, or they're completely the people. So this is a very dangerous situation where we're completely. I mean, it's okay if you're controlled by spiritual people like a guru, but if you're controlled by materialistic people, it's putting in a very dangerous situation. Because we know they don't really love us or anything. It's just they're getting some benefit out of being in control, So it's the world's in a very dangerous situation, and like it's saying, very godless civilization, and we need to be very careful. And of course, for us, as Krishna conscious, if we are shut down or whatever like that, and different things locked down, then we should just hear about God more and chant more, do more chanting. Okay, you can't go to work for a week or whatever due to a lockdown, then take advantage of that. Turn a bad thing into a good thing. Okay, let's chant more rounds. Let's read Bhagavad Gita more. Let's get more into Krishna consciousness. So.
Yeah, I think everything is good. I mean, from a Krishna conscious point of view, everything is good. In materialistic point of view, you might say that it's wrong, or if you're not Krishna consciousness or God consciousness, then you might think everything happening to you is, or the world is wrong. But it's not. It's all happening because it's supposed to happen, because God is doing it.
Yes.
And
Yes.
in long term, you have to think. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe we don't understand. Probably we don't understand why it's happening, but
Yeah.
it may be His will. It's obviously His will. Maybe
Yeah.
for some reason, because we don't
Well,
know.
this is the characteristics of Kali Yuga.
Yeah.
It's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the characteristics of Kali Yuga.
Mm.
That the politicians, the leaders are like very, materialistic and very greedy and everything, and that people are godless and like that, so forth. But we don't have to just surrender to that. We
Yeah.
should. We
Everyone
should
is
awaken
confused.
to
Yeah.
Krishna consciousness, but we expect this. It's not unexpected.
Yeah.
We expect these kind of characteristics will be there, but we in this situation we surrender to the Lord. We just surrender. Okay, this is a very difficult situation, but even though, like it's saying, the material energy is very stringent, you can't overcome it. But we know there's one person that's more powerful than the stringent laws of material nature, and that's Krishna. So that's why we surrender to Krishna, because he's more powerful than the Maya. Maya is more powerful than us, but not more powerful than Krishna. So if we surrender to Krishna, then we can overcome the Maya. That's our saving grace. That's our saving grace.
I think that's the biggest thing. I get,
Yeah.
because you're not in control. You're not basically here, so you know who's the controller. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just very simple. I mean, in
Yeah.
terms of you can. And scientifically, you can verify yourself. I mean, looking at your life, just things happening around you,
Yeah.
that you're not you're not in 100% control. So yeah, it's true. You don't need to be so anxious about all the things, and you have to you have to understand that God is there, and that
I mean, the only anxiety for the Krishna conscious person that he's feels sad for those people that don't become Krishna conscious, that they are unnecessarily suffering an illusion and lamentation and so forth. Unnecessarily, they can revive their love for God and get out of all these things. So that's a kind of spiritual anxiety due to feeling love, because a Krishna conscious person, like we're reading here in this verse, saying that who sees all living entities as spiritual sparks in quality with the Lord, becomes a true knower. So he loves everyone. We love all the people, and we feel sad that they've forgotten God and they're turned away from God and they're suffering because of that. And that's the only real lamentation the devotee has. We don't worry about COVID virus or anything like that, but we just worry that all these people are just wasting their time day and night, just worrying about material things and everything, trying to solve the diseases instead of trying to solve the real problem, which is that they've turned away from God. So this is, and we just pray. We pray to Krishna, please help them, and we try whatever we can to talk to some people if we can about Krishna consciousness and try to help them and give some knowledge like that. So
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
That's good. Yeah, no, it's just makes you think more and more. Let's try to improve. Yeah, that's how we can improve. Yeah, that's good. Very meaningful session.
Yeah.
Every time talk
Thank
to you, that's
you.
because I'm
So
just starting to think about things. That just makes kind of sense. I mean, it's just and it's very good. Thank you for that.
It's a pleasure. This whole process is awakening our buddhi, our intelligence. This kind of knowledge, it's reawakening the buddhi, the intelligence within us. Our spiritual intelligence is becoming awakened. And then we see everything differently. Like that we've been hearing, we're seeing through the scriptures. So now our eyes are becoming opened very much wider through this knowledge from the Shastra Chakshush. So you're becoming Shastra Chakshush, Jnana Chakshush.
I'm trying.
Yeah, it's good.
Just
And it's a whole new world, and it's a whole new world. You see things completely
paradigm
different.
shift. Totally. You were living, and now you got a different window. Now we are trying to follow the manual from the God. How you should be actually doing things to be happy, and it's just amazing. Yeah, that's good.
It's awesome.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Very nice. Okay, lovely to be with you again. You take care. Have a nice week.
You too.
Okay,
Thank you. Hare Krishna.